Hey guys, welcome back to True Crime and Whatnot. I am your host, Tanya, and I just want to thank you all for joining us for the stories I find interesting because that's what I'm doing. I started this podcast as a way to talk about cases that I have read about and have just stuck with me and try to get my thoughts out because, much like you guys, I'm a crime fanatic. I really, really want to understand what goes on in someone's mind to make them do the things that they do. It's why I got my associates in forensic science. And there's a lot of stigma that you have to be mentally ill to do some of these things, and I don't think that's always the case. Sometimes I think people are just angry and evil and mean, and they enjoy seeing other people suffer. That's not necessarily a mental illness. That's just mean. So I tend to ask my mom and my sisters and other family members for cases that they think people would also be interested in. And my younger sister recommended this case, along with another case that has a very similar name. But today, we are going to cover the original Chameleon killer. So, let's get started. Warning: this episode contains descriptions of death involving children. Viewer discretion is advised. Terry Pater Rasmussen was born December 23rd, 1943, in Denver, Colorado, to Pater and Anita Rasmussen. That's really all I could find on his upbringing and childhood, other than he had a brother named Danny and grew up in Arizona. In the 1960s, while a sophomore in high school, Terry dropped out of school and in 61 enlisted in the U.S. Navy, where he served until he was discharged in 1967. In 1969, he got married and he and his wife had 4 children. They lived in Hawaii, Phoenix, Arizona, and Redwood, California. In 1975, Terry was arrested for aggravated assault in Arizona, and his wife decided that was the last straw. That was it. She took the kids and she left. The last time his family saw him was December 1975 or December 1976, when he showed up unannounced with an unidentified woman. It's 47 years later, and we still have no clue who this woman is. Don't know a name, what she looked like, or if she's even still alive. However, chances are very slim on the last one, knowing what we know now. Terry moved around a lot. Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Texas, Oregon, Hawaii, Virginia, California, and finally settled down for a while in New Hampshire, sometime in the late 1970s. Now, he would often work as an electrician for the gas or oil companies, So he knew his way around things. And in the 1980s, he was arrested 3 times for writing a bad check, theft, and diverting electric current, which is the fancy way of saying he was stealing the electricity. This is where we start to see the chameleon, because at this time, Terry Rasmussen was not the person who was charged for these crimes. Oh no, no. It was a man named Robert Bob Evans. Now, Robert, aka Terry, had a supposed wife at this time named Elizabeth Evans. She's never been identified. We don't know who she is. You seeing a pattern here already? In 1978, Terry was dating Marlise Elizabeth Honeychurch, who was a mother of 2. Marlise had a falling out with her family in La Puente, California on Thanksgiving, and she left with Terry and her 2 daughters, 6-year-old Marie and 1-year-old Sarah. This was the last time Marlise and the girls were seen alive. In November 1985, 2 men out hunting in the woods of Bear Brook State Park in Allenstown, New Hampshire, found a barrel with 2 female bodies in it. They were the bodies of Marlise and her oldest daughter, Marie. The cause of death for both of them was blunt trauma to their heads. In 2000, a second barrel was found about 100 yards away from where the original barrel was. This barrel contained the bodies of Sarah and an unidentified girl between the ages of 2 and 4. As of 2019, the unidentified child was yet to be named, but DNA did confirm that Terry was her biological father. While he was going by Bob Evans, Terry was dating a woman named Denise Bowden. Denise went missing shortly after Thanksgiving 1981, along with her 6-month-old daughter, Dawn. A missing persons report was never filed right away because her family believed she had left the area due to financial issues. Authorities believe Terry killed Denise somewhere in California. Her body has never been found. So if you're anything like me, you're probably noticing that there seems to be several different patterns going on. So far, all these women had children. The children were girls. And the last time their families seen them was Thanksgiving. Now, you're probably also wondering why they believe Denise to be dead. Well, my friends, that's where the story takes a turn. So throughout the early 1980s, Terry kept young Dawn and raised her as his own. But he changed her name. He called her Lisa, and he posed as her father. And in 1985, he was arrested in Cypress, California, under the name Curtis Kimball for a DUI and endangering the welfare of a child. He then failed to appear in court and changed his name to Gordon Jensen. He left Lisa with a couple who actually planned to adopt her. But when the time came to sign the final papers, he was nowhere to be found. So, yet again, he's abandoned her. This was 1986, way before cell phones were a thing, so there was no way to track him down. You couldn't just call. And if he was on the move, he was in the wind. So he was gone. In 1988, he was arrested under the alias Jerry Mockerman for driving a stolen vehicle. He received a 3-year prison sentence for child abandonment. In 1990, he was paroled, and then he left the area. So he was able to lie low for the next 9 years and resurfaced in December of 1999 as Larry Vanner. Chemist Unsoon June introduced him to her family at this time. They married in an unofficial ceremony in 2001, and by June of 2002, Unsoon disappeared. Her body was found buried in the couple's home under a pile of cat litter. Cat litter. My thought behind the cat litter is that if you have an oil spill from your car, you use cat litter to soak it up. Cat litter is very absorbent. It could soak up blood. It could clean it up. And it would keep the smell down. So that's why I think he used cat litter, which is actually pretty smart. Her cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. In November 2002, Terry was arrested for her death. He pled no contest in 2003 to charges relating to her murder and dismemberment. He was sentenced to 15 years to life. And for those of you that are wondering, a no contest plea is basically you accept the charges and the sentence, possibly for a reduced sentence. It's not admitting guilt, but it's not admitting innocence either. So apparently the no contest plea was a big surprise to one of the homicide detectives because she stated that she thought that Terry had overheard her saying she was going to request a paternity test for Lisa. And when they ran his fingerprints, they came back to 2 of his aliases, Kimball and Jensen, which then linked him to the child endangerment cases. Now, I'm really curious to know what he was doing during those 9 years that he wasn't arrested, because I have a hard time believing he just stopped. I don't think he had that ability. But I could be completely wrong, and hopefully he just, stayed to himself and didn't hurt anybody else. That is my biggest hope. Terry Rasmussen died on December 28th, 2010, at 67. His cause of death was a combination of lung cancer, COPD, and pneumonia. His body was cremated. And that's a painful death. So I didn't go into detail about his wife and kids because I couldn't really find a whole lot about them. And that's probably because they don't want to be associated with him. I completely understand that and I respect it. And also, they managed to get away from him. They were not involved in his crimes or his life in any way. My heart my heart truly goes out to his kids because they are finding out at the same time as the rest of the world the depth of his evilness. He was smart, he was cunning, and he was lethal. And they managed to get away. And that is amazing. So that concludes the original Chameleon killer, Terry Rasmussen. I really appreciate you joining me for another episode of True Crime and Whatnot. And I hope everyone had a wonderful Easter. I'm working on some stories for the Whatnot part of the show, so hopefully soon I'll have something. Till next time, stay true and whatnot. Bye.